we got Andrew in Southampton. We've got Jeff as well. The reason I want to hold you to hold fire is we've got Alan as well. And Alan, I believe you've been involved in a scheme like this, or indeed this scheme. Good morning, Alan.
Good morning. Yes.
Tell us more.
Pardon?
Tell us more.
Say that. What's that?
Tell us more.
Oh, tell us more. I thought you said something else.
Oh, dear. I hate to think what you thought I said. Carry on.
Yeah, what I used to do, I used to work abroad, so I basically paid no tax in the UK because I was only in the country for 90 days.
What was your line of work? Can I ask?
In the construction game, oil and gas.
Right, okay. Were you out in the Middle East or somewhere else?
All over.
All over, right, okay.
Excuse me. Anyway, I came back to the UK and went self-employed, formed my own limited company, and the amounts of tax I paid was horrendous. And so...
What do you mean by horrendous? Was it, obviously, it's top rate?
Well, I was paying just corporation tax about £26,000 a year.
What percentage was that then?
Oh, I don't know. My accountant just took it. Well, I think it was 20%, isn't it? Something like that. My accountant just told me what I owed, and that was it. Anyway, the lads who I was working with said, well, why don't you try this umbrella scheme in the Isle of Man? So there's quite a few firms that they use this umbrella scheme where you pay minimum wage, I think it's £258 a week, so you pay minimum tax and minimum insurance on it, and then you get the rest as a loan.
What was the problem with paying 20% in tax, may I ask?
Because I didn't like doing it, to tell you the truth.
Well, head teachers are paying 40%, and a lot of people, and then the top rate of tax at the moment, what is it, 45%?
Yeah.
It's likely to, if Ed Miliband wins the election, it's likely to go up to 50%. It was at one stage, of course, under Labour at 40%. Under Mrs Thatcher, it was a lot higher than that. She brought it down.
Yeah, well, I remember when I was working in the North Sea.
20% though. A lot of people might say, you know.
Yeah, I was paying as much as 60% tax on my wages. So I thought I paid enough into the system. And, you know, tax avoidance is all right. You're not breaking the law. It's there to do. You know what I mean? This is what you pay an accountant for.
Yeah. Yeah. What was the scheme? Describe the scheme to us, how it worked.
It's just I don't know how it works. It's just an umbrella scheme. You paid minimum wage, and then you pay minimum tax and insurance, and then you get a loan. You draw a loan off your money.
And how much did you save?
On the radio.
Loads.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you put a sort of, what's that terrible word, guesstimate?
What, on my tax?
Yeah, how much you saved? Yeah.
Well, I'll say I'd save 95% of my wages.
And how did you think of it? Were you thinking, oh, I must find a way to save all this money, I don't want to pay the 20%, or did your accountant come to you and say, do you know what, you can do this?
No, my accountant never came to it. It's lads at work. Lads at work. And then I'm working in the oil and gas now out of this country, and everybody's on the same scheme. They all work on the same scheme. And it's basically a limited company, but you work under an umbrella company.
But it was legitimate.
Oh, yeah, it's legitimate. Actually, I think, wait a minute, they take 16 pence, I think, 16 pence in a pound, so you're saving 84%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, stay there. Jeff, what do you make of that? What do you make of this? What do you make of Gary? What do you make of Alan? What do you make of anything? Jeff in Bath, are you there? He's not. David Buick, comment on Alan.
Well, Alan sounds like he's been on oil rigs and various other things all parts of the world, and so he spent, whatever it is, less than 90 days in the United Kingdom. And such as I know, Nicky, that is completely bona fide. And in the case of Gary Barlow, what I think we're all treading on very thin ice is, was he exposed? Did he admit it? Was it legitimate? Was it tax avoidance, which is illegal? Was it tax evasion? And it strikes me as pretty muddy, but it seems, such as we've heard, that this tax has been avoided. And my view is very strong about this, is people have got to step up to the plate if they have avoided tax. If, like Alan, they've evaded it, that's okay. But I think everybody in this country will agree, Nicky, that the tax system that we have in this country and have had for the last 100 years is just so complicated, such nonsense. The whole thing needs completely reviewing.
What about the morality, away from the legality? the morality of when you're earning that amount of money to try and earn less, to pay less than 20% tax, for example, which Alan's case is very great that Alan called, which is, perfectly legal. It is not tax evasion, it's tax avoidance. But what I was saying earlier on, the moral climate has changed, hasn't it, David?
Well, it's changed because of the abuse of, a very small minority of number of people. It is a growing number because the Chancellor and the Prime Minister have made very, very strong overtures that they're coming to get them, which is completely understandable. But whilst the system has holes in it, like a sieve, Nicky, they are going to be capitalised on. And it's quite hard to say somebody is behaving in an immoral way if what they're doing is legal. Because in the cases you mentioned it about Gary Barlow, and it's completely true. I mean, he has been fabulous for charity. Also, he and Take That have generated millions and millions and millions of pounds into the exchequer in terms of exports and the sale of records and in the retail industry. And, that is indisputable by any stretch of the imagination. If he has abused his privilege and avoided tax, not only will he have to pay that tax, but I suspect he's going to be severely fined.
Okay, David. Andrew, we've heard Alan, we've heard about Gary. What do you say? Andrew in Southampton.
Well, I think this is rather interesting. I think if you put yourself out there as a bastion of morality, you do put yourself under the spotlight. I've run a business...
Who's put himself out there as a bastion of morality?
Gary Barlow.
Has he? In what way?
Well, I mean, he's the man who puts his face in front of many charity initiatives. He's done all that great work for, going over to Africa. I don't deny for 1 minute.
Heartfelt. That was heartfelt. He cares about it.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Of course, he cares about it, and I don't deny that for 1 minute. And David's absolutely right. Take that. Gary Barlow have brought a great deal of money into this country through the endeavours that he's put his name to, which makes avoiding the tax in the way in which he's done so even more significant, because the tax which he is avoiding, let's be honest with you, is money that could go towards a number of these charities to which he puts his face. So I think that it's very, very difficult for Gary Barlow to sit there and go down this route while trying to maintain this kind of this image that he has. And I honestly, I know that a couple of people have mentioned before about when you pay an accountant, it's down to them to decide where your money goes. Well, I've always been very, very firmly under the belief that you know exactly what your accountant's doing, and the onus actually lands on you as the employer of the accountant. And it's quite interesting. I think it was Alan, your previous caller.
Are you still there, Alan?
Yeah, still here.
And you have to admire Alan in many ways, that he's certainly done his homework, and Alan knew exactly where his money was going and exactly how he was shall we say, avoiding tax. Now, if Alan knows that that's happening, I'm sure that Gary knew as well.
Deborah, I think you want to speak to Alan, do you, Deborah? Is Deborah in Wokingham? Are you there, Deborah?
Yes, I am, yeah.
Well, I think Alan, Deborah, Alan. Deborah, what do you say?
Good morning, Alan.
Morning, Deborah.
I was lost for words listening to you, because you live in one of the most amazing countries in the world. It's a fantastic place to live. But by avoiding paying your taxes, you're not contributing to this country at all. But you don't actually even think it's wrong. I mean, do you ever use a hospital? Did you have kids that go to school? Do you not use anything in this country? Do you just live in a little bubble?
No, I do use the hospital, but I pay for it privately. I pay for my children's hospital privately.
But so you've got kids and they go to the local school, do they? So
I've got grandkids that go to local schools, yeah.
So what you're saying is someone like me who pays their taxes and doesn't put it offshore on the Isle of Man...
wait a minute, I don't put it...
you, really? I
don't put it on the off... My money goes into the bank in the UK or in England. I work through a company in the Isle of Man. I do not bank my money there.
You said you only pay tax on the minimum wage, so you are avoiding... Look, if everybody did this, the country would just cease to exist. It couldn't actually exist. And but you don't actually even think it's wrong. You freely admit that. I hope the tax office is listening.
It's legal. He's not breaking the law.
No, I know he's not breaking the law, but it's a loophole, and I just hope the government are going to close it as quickly as possible, like the one for Amazon. All the people that are moaning about Gary Barlow will quite happily go and order something on Amazon. The bookshop near where I live is probably going to close because of Amazon. So all the tax that they avoid paying is billions of tax, and they're doing people out of jobs. And the gentleman that I'm talking to now, I just think you really, really ought to think about what you're doing. You probably criticise people for taking social services, dole and what have you, but you're worse, because you're just not paying. Why don't you go and live in Dubai or somewhere where then you can not pay your tax, but to actually live here and use this country's services and not pay towards them is obscene.
Well, I actually we're talking about Dubai. I've lived in Dubai. I lived in Singapore, and my last tax bill in Singapore was over £40,000. So I paid my taxes and I paid my dues here. I'm 60 odd years.
You're not paying them, though.
No, I'm not. No, I'm 60 odd years old. I've paid my taxes for 30 odd years, and I've paid big taxes.
You didn't. You've been in one of these umbrella schemes, and you don't pay your tax, and you still don't. You're not apologetic about it.
No, I'm not. I'm a total mercenary. I'm a total mercenary, like most of the guys in the construction industry are. We work in harsh environments.
Every single person in this country should do what you're doing.
Well, that's your opinion. My opinion is...
to you. If they did, your grandchildren wouldn't even have a school to go to.
Yeah, they would. Well,
how would they? Who would be paying for it?
How do you mean? We still people are still paying taxes.
No, but
in the construction industry, there's only about a million of us. Probably less than that.
It's all right because you're doing it. But if everybody did it...
But he's paying tax.
He's paying on a minimum wage, Nicky. He said he's paying on a minimum wage and the rest is on a loan. So he's not paying. So you think it's okay, do you?
No, I don't think it's okay. I don't not think it's okay.
It's a legal loophole.
I'm just winding you all up.
Which I'm exploiting.
I'm on this programme quite a lot, and I sometimes get frustrated because big issues do get discussed, and you very rarely see anything done about it. But people today, if you're going to go and order something on Amazon, just think about your local shops, and if you're working in a tax office, think about this guy and this loophole in the Isle of Man, and do your absolute utmost to close it. Because if there is one million people doing this,
we'll get closed down eventually. We all know this.
We'll hope so.
But then this is why accountants are paid to create new loopholes.
Well, I just hope, you think about it. If every single person did what you're doing, your kids wouldn't have a school to go to. There wouldn't be a hospital.
Every single person isn't able to do it. Shall we say privileged enough to do it or earning enough money to do it?
Okay, we're getting...
I work for myself.
Yeah, we're getting into... But Deborah, just a one-word answer. Should Gary Barlow give back his OBE?
No.